As the waves are pounding back relentlessly these shores of Anna Maria Beach, so our circumstances of lives never stops. They keep pounding over and over, and they're pounding and pounding even harder, and they come in multitude, in numbers, pressing against your life, your circumstances, and your feeling as the beach feels, as the waves comes and hit this shoreline. But the shoreline stands. It is not disturbed by the pounding of the waves. As it is for the shoreline, so it is true for our very life. Where we cannot allow the circumstances of life keep pounding against us, and we succumb to the circumstances that we're facing. In my book, Thrive Beyond Results, I'm laying out a simple formula that has worked for me and a handful of others who have used it, which is a 3I framework, where it allows you, despite the fact that the life circumstances will keep on pounding, you will remain still. You will remain, stand, and you will keep pressing on, no matter how hard they pound. You will not be disturbed by its appearance. In fact, you will be at peace, even in the presence of it. And this is a simple process of framework I call 3I framework. And 3I stands for idealize. Before this shoreline could stand these waves, this pounding of waves, the shoreline had to identify itself to be different from the waves. If the shoreline think it is the same as the waves, it will be consumed by the waves themselves. But the shoreline have remained and identified itself as different from the waves of the sea. And so as the waves of the sea comes, they cannot disturb the shoreline. That's called idealize. Where you have the shoreline have identified itself, and you are to have identified yourself to be the thing you want, despite the fact of the circumstances you're facing. And once you do so, the second I comes into play, which is introduce. Over the years, this shoreline have introduced itself to be the shoreline, not the waves that comes and comes and goes. So the shoreline stands regardless of what the waves brings along with it. In the fact that shoreline has identified itself to be, that is what I call introduce. Where you have to introduce yourself to be the person you want to be. That meaning that you have to think from the point of view of how you would have reacted, how you would have thought, how you would have pursued things from the point of being the person you want to be. You constantly do this when you're watching a movie, and suddenly you're caught up in an emotion, and an event happens in the movie, even though you know that event is not true, but yet it washes you and lifted you up, and you identify yourself with the sin in question. And because you made that identification, you start tearing up, your emotions overtaking, and that is introduction. And it is true in each and every aspect of our life. We have the power to introduce ourselves to whatever the circumstances we need in life. When I was in prison, I did this over and over and over, and that was my escape route, not to allow the circumstances, the harshness of the confinement could have done to me. And therefore, by extracting myself from that presence, I was able to be different from it, despite the fact of being in it. And in the Bible says, I am in this world, but not of this world. That's what introduction does. And then we have to iterate, which means you have to repeat it over and over and over until that new state becomes second nature to you. And so it was for this shoreline. Today, the shoreline keeps standing, no matter how much water, no matter how much waves from the Gulf of Mexico keeps coming and pounding this coastline, they remain. And if you do so, I am confident your life will be different. You will awaken to a place you've never been before. You will experience circumstances you've never thought before possible. All you're going to do is follow the process. But to understand more in detail, as it's outlined on the book, just grab your copy from Amazon, Apple Bookstore, and many other bookstores are available. Thrive Beyond Results. Thank you very much. share this video, save it for the future, because you will need to refight to remind yourself that you are stronger, you are bigger than the circumstances you're facing. Until then, I'll be back.